What up? It's been a minute since I've done one of these, but felt like I wanted to do a refresher for all the relatively new divers out there, especially because my last tier list is now quite old and we have more options to go over. What are the best and worst boosters in Helldivers 2? We're gonna go through each one, explain exactly what they do, and I will put each one into a tier list based on my own personal rankings. And if you're curious about my qualifications, I'm an endgame player, hundreds of hours in the game. I help random people finish level 10 missions. Every time I plug in a USB, I get it right on the first try. You know the deal. All right, starting off at the very bottom in D tier, which unfortunately is where I rank a lot of boosters in the game. These are basically options that I would almost never recommend you use for any reason at all. First up in the bottom tier is Sample Extricator, arguably one of the worst boosters in the game. Large enemies now have a small chance of dropping samples on death, capped at 10 drops per mission. At first you think, that sounds interesting, free samples. But the booster is deceptively bad, like one of those pre-made sandwiches that you open up to find that it's got nothing inside. Sample Extricator only has a chance to drop samples after killing a large target. And what's even worse, apparently it only works with just common samples. Via my in-game testing with all the missions I ran with Sample Extricator, I can firmly say that yeah, when it did work, I would only get just one common sample from underneath the body of a large enemy like a dead Bile Titan, which is such a crazy disappointment. Not to mention annoying, because the sample doesn't go right into your inventory. You have to manually search the body of every large enemy you kill to see if the booster activated or not. Right now, this may only seem appealing to newer players who need a lot more samples to finish unlocking all of their ship module upgrades. But still, this is a bad booster, and I'd recommend bringing something stronger so you instead have a better shot at completing the mission and extracting rather than hoping that you'll get one extra common sample every time you kill a big enemy. Next up is one the community loves to meme on, and I think for good reason: Firebomb Hellpods. Lines all Hellpods with volatile incendiaries that detonate upon impact, igniting any units in vicinity of the drop site. Translation: any pod you call in, whether that be a resupply turret, a weapon, a backpack, or a fellow Helldiver getting dropped back in via reinforcement, that pod will hit the ground and create a small fiery blast in the area. And sure, there are some scenarios in which this could be potentially helpful, but I find that a lot of the time this can backfire and cause damage to you or your teammates, and B, there are way better options out there for you to choose from. If you want, you can use your turrets, resupplies, and reinforcements more aggressively, but we have such good crowd control weapons these days, and again, not to mention other boosters that are just way stronger. Moving right along, we have Dead Sprint. Allows Helldivers to keep sprinting even when they are out of stamina, draining their health instead. This works exactly how it sounds. While sprinting, when your stamina meter goes away, you now start dipping into your health bar. All I have to say is just why? Why would you do this to yourself? If you desperately need to sprint, I'm guessing it's because you're getting ganged up on and trying to avoid injury. But by using this booster, you're still gonna get injured either way. I did use this a few times in my metal farming runs because I don't really care about living when I metal farm, and it let me run a little bit more. But even then, I didn't feel like it was really helping me at all. Only lunatics use this, and you cannot convince me otherwise. Next up, we have Armed Resupply Pods. Mounts a modified AR-23 Liberator to all resupply pods, allowing them to double as automatic turrets. I haven't been this disappointed with a drop since Destiny 2 Ash and Iron. But no, it's really bad. You call on a resupply pod, and it has a little turret on it that I swear to God, I can probably spit farther than the range of that turret. Most of the time, I can't imagine this helping any player at all, even on low-level missions. With the bad range and the mid-firepower it offers, you're probably just gonna get your resupply pod whacked and broken. Don't get me wrong, if this were base kit, I wouldn't complain, but wasting an entire booster on this is a wild, wild decision. There are way better options out there, IMO. Moving on. In bottom tier, we have Stun Pods. Exposes Hellpod wiring upon surface contact, stunning any units in the vicinity of the drop site. Sounds okay, but honestly, another classic case of why use this as your booster when there are way stronger options available. And if I'm being honest, while it's fun to drop into a clump of enemies and stun them when I touch down, it's still kinda needlessly dangerous. I would much rather drop away from a clump of enemies than hop out of my pod and start murdering them from a safe distance distance rather than being like, haha, I got a free stun. And if you're wondering, hey, what about larger enemies? I mean, sure, but if I see a large enemy when I'm coming down, I'm gonna try to land directly on top of them anyway, which is an instant kill. And in that case, stun pods wouldn't help at all there because they'd already be dead. Stun pods is a funny idea, but not worth picking, I feel. Our final booster in the very large D tier category is Flexible Reinforcement Budget. Reduces time until new reinforcements are granted when they've been depleted. TLDR, when you have no reinforcements left in a mission and you're waiting for the in-game timer to go down so you can get additional reinforcements, Flexible Budget will take the default timer of 2 minutes and knock it down to 1 minute and 30 seconds instead. And while that is handy, I think your team would be much better off bringing strong boosters that improve your odds of actually succeeding rather than expecting that you're going to be riding the struggle bus and in need of help, which is kind of what Flexible Reinforcement Budget is. Maybe this belongs in C tier, but I think there's just a ton of better options. All right, moving on to C tier, aka boosters that might have some kind of unique usage, but at the end of the day, I still think you should probably be using something else.
Fall is right around the corner, meaning it is no longer going to be 1,000,000 degrees outside. I can finally go outside and do things without sweating through my shirt immediately. Enter my Recon Everyday Earbuds Classic. With awesome audio quality and a 32-hour battery life, I can go outside, I can jog, I can walk, I can sightsee, I can do whatever I want, feeling comfortable and listening to whatever I want. Even if I haven't charged them in a while, they have a quick charge function. Just 10 minutes of charging can yield 90 minutes of battery life, which is crazy. But the best part is that these earbuds are affordable. Other earbuds out there could cost you several $100s, but Recon delivers the same high-level audio quality at half the price. So if you're looking for some great earbuds to go outside and do some fall jogging, or you want something comfy cozy to listen to while you're indoors watching the leaves change through the window, great, Recon has you covered. Go to buyraycon.com/fallout for 20% off your order site-wide. Don't wait, again, head on over to buyraycon.com/fallout for 20% off your order. And again, thank you, Recon.
All right, we back. Kicking off C tier, we have Sample Scanner. Gives Helldivers a 15% chance to retrieve twice the samples on sample pickup. Hey, at the very least, I'll give Arrowhead credit for actually giving us the exact number of 15% instead of leaving us to figure out the number on our own. Overall, not great. The only world I'd ever imagine recommending somebody actually using this is if they were intentionally sample farming in order to unlock every ship module upgrade available. I personally have no use for this because I have basically every upgrade unlocked except for one. Again, if you're sample farming, sure, I guess, but any other time I would not use. Finally, in C tier, we have UAV Recon Booster. Increases all Helldivers' effective radar range. As mentioned in my original Helldiver 2 booster video, provided you have all your ship module upgrades, you can detect enemies on your radar up to 74 meters away, give or take. With UAV Recon turned on, you can now see enemy blips on your radar up to around 110 meters away. Not bad. You can also pair UAV Recon together with armor that has the Scout passive trait. That way, when you drop a ping on the in-game map, UAV Recon will push out the range that enemies are detected from that marker, again, provided you have Scout armor. I'd heard that UAV Recon also affects your ability to detect POIs, aka places of interest on your radar from a little bit further away. That is half true. In checking my radar to see how far away I could stand from a POI before my Helldiver shouted, "Found something," that range never really changed regardless of UAV Recon. But seeing these, aka the little question marks that pop up on your compass, that range does seem to be extended by UAV Recon. Without UAV equipped, my diver would see question marks on their compass that were maybe 45 meters away, give or take. With UAV equipped, though, question marks would appear on my compass from about 54 or 55 meters away. Basically meaning UAV Recon can help you detect POIs from slightly further away, which is handy if you are farming. All right, now we come to B tier, aka boosters that are decent at very specific things with maybe a little bit more universal usage than C tier. First up in B tier is Expert Extraction Pilot. Lowers the time it takes for the extraction extraction shuttle to reach the extraction beacon. Apparently, this booster had gotten a little bit of a glow up since I last reviewed it. When last I checked, it would shave off exactly 15% off your end of mission extraction timer, aka when you're waiting for the evac ship to arrive. Now though, expert extraction shaves off 30% of that timer. So for example, if your normal evac timer would be 2 minutes on the dot, it would now get cut down to 1 minute and 24 seconds, aka a 30% shorter timer. Not bad. The only downside is that this booster really only helps you once per mission as opposed to multiple times like some other boosters I could mention. At the end of the day though, again, respectable glow up. Next up in B tier, we have Motivational Shocks. Allows all Helldivers to recover faster after being slowed by an attack, such as acid. Does not mitigate area effects such as EMS strikes. Check it out. Here we have a great clip from Reddit user Alfado Jockey showing the booster in effect against a terminated enemy. Basically, anytime you get slowed by an enemy or by the environment, Motivational Shocks will kick in to make that duration not as long. Arrowhead apparently thought this wasn't good enough in the original version, which I agree with, and they buffed Motivational Shocks in December of 2024. Now, as you can see, if I slow myself with a G23 stun grenade, my recovery time from being slowed is much faster when you have Motivational Shocks equipped. I think I would rank this much higher if there were more things in the game that could slow you down, but it can absolutely get you out of a jam, and that is why I'm including it here in B tier. Next up in B tier, we have increased reinforcement budget. Increases the number of available reinforcements. Yeah, you know when you first drop into a mission and in the top left corner, it shows you the exact number of teammate reinforcements you have remaining? For every person you have in the fire team, this will add an extra token by 1. So if you're playing in a full squad, that means you'll get 4 extra reinforcements total. I feel like this is the General Tso's chicken of booster picks. You know when you order Chinese food, you have that lazy friend who can't really be bothered to even try new things or look at the menu? What's his go-to order? General Tso's every time. It is a safe, plain Jane pick that doesn't really require much thought. I think in a perfect world, there are better options you could go with. I would rather go in with a strong loadout that maybe makes it harder for me and my team to get killed rather than planning for failure, but you do you. Finally, in B tier, we have a massive fall from grace, which is Vitality Enhancement. Provides minor damage reduction from all sources for Helldivers. I don't know when this booster got changed because I could not find any official patch note changes, but what a gut punch. Back in the day, Vitality Enhancement gave you noticeable damage reduction and made your limbs sturdier and more resistant to injury. That seems to no longer be the case. I did the same test I did in my original video, aka falling off a small ledge and hurting my legs, and the results were way different this time. Vitality Enhancement did not make my limbs sturdier. They both broke on the second fall each and every time. Incoming damage wise, I had my friend shoot me in the leg with a Liberator Penetrator, which is relatively weak damage per bullet. You can see after the first shot alone, I barely took less damage overall. When Vitality Enhancement was turned on, I died in the same number of shots either way. I also did another test where I let a small little Terminid bug slash me to death. Without Vitality Enhancement, that took 3 hits to do, but with Vitality Enhancement, I died in 4 hits. So again, the damage reduction is there, it is minor, but it could maybe save your life. And that's why it's still a somewhat viable booster. It can save your life, but with how much the damage reduction has changed, it might not be very likely. Moving on to A tier. Basically, if you take any of these boosters into a mission, I very much doubt anyone would really question you. Starting with Localization Confusion, increases the time between enemy encounters. This one is tricky to explain, but much community research has been done to try and understand the booster a bit better. In a nutshell, Localization Confusion does not have any effect on the amount of frequency of enemy patrols, aka groups of enemies roaming around the map looking for trouble. However, it does extend the game's internal timer that determines when the next time an enemy will call in for reinforcements, you know, like a bug breach. According to a Steam post by Antique Nova, rough testing revealed that at high-end difficulty, you could theoretically delay the next reinforcement call by up to 52 seconds. That was estimating the effect of this booster to be around 35% give or take. In a video by YouTuber Dakovich, he found that on high-level difficulty, Localization Confusion extended the reinforcement timer by around 30 seconds, which would mean that this would delay the reinforcement timer by around 15%, which I feel is probably a more accurate number. It's kind of impossible to test perfectly in-game, because the enemy AI ain't gonna act exactly the same each and every time, but extending the time before the next mandatory reinforcement call at the highest level of difficulty even by 30 seconds? Really not bad at all. Usually when shit is hitting the fan, it is due to being overwhelmed by enemies, so I think anything you can do to push that back a little bit further is okay. Next up in A tier, we have Muscle Enhancement. Allows Helldivers to traverse difficult terrain with ease. Not much has changed since my original video. In fact, Arrowhead has buffed this booster to be even more effective. But TLDR, if you're on a planet that has difficult terrain, aka mud or snow or thick jungle foliage, Muscle Enhancement will allow you to handle that terrain much easier no matter what kind of armor you're wearing. If you're on a mission that features a small map, i.e. a defend the area type mission, or maybe a planet that features human cities and paved roads, aka not difficult terrain, then Muscle Enhancement would be a very bad pick. But if you're on a planet with a lot of difficult terrain, a lot of mud, a lot of snow, you get the idea, Muscle Enhancement is a strong pick. Get out of jams easier and run across the map easier in general. And finally, we come to S tier, aka boosters that are borderline mandatory. If I want the absolute best chance of fully completing a mission and extracting, I'm telling my teammates to bring these. Kicking off S tier, we have Experimental Infusion. In addition to restoring health, stims temporarily increase movement speed and damage reduction. With Vitality Enhancement getting knocked off the perch in S tier, Experimental Infusion has risen up to fill the void. When activating a stim, you'll notice that the edges of your HUD are slightly glowing. This is a visual indicator of how long the effects of your stim are taking place. The duration of an Experimental Infusion stim seems to be around 11.5 to 12 seconds, give or take, while regular stim effects wear off after 4.5 to 5 seconds. 11.5 seconds is a pretty good duration to have increased movement speed and mild damage reduction for, especially considering how many times you and your teammates are going to stim during a mission, which I'm guessing will probably be a lot, especially during higher difficulty missions. I did a side-by-side speed test. You don't move a ton faster, but it definitely is noticeable. And the duration I ran for wasn't very far. After reaching the lamppost I decided to run to, my Experimental Infusion stim was still whirring for a few more seconds, meaning I could have gone even further and shown more of a speed improvement if I had gone further. But yeah, overall a very good booster, especially at higher levels of difficulty. Next up in S tier, we have one that thankfully has stood the test of time. Stamina Enhancement increases all Helldivers stamina, capacity, and recovery. Sprinting is literally what you and your teammates will be doing basically 99% of the time in-game. Therefore, being able to run a little bit further before your meter fully depletes or being able to recover your meter a little bit faster is straight up always going to be incredible. With your sprint booster off, you can run for around 23 seconds, give or take, before your meter fully empties. With sprint booster on, you can run around for 30 seconds, give or take, before your meter fully expires. With sprint booster off, it takes you 7 seconds to fully replenish an empty sprint meter. With sprint booster on, it will now take you only around 5.25 seconds to replenish the meter. Yes, these are small benefits, but again, you are literally almost always sprinting in Helldivers, so in my opinion, there is never ever a reason to not take this booster. And finally, in S tier, we have the Alpha, the Omega, Hellpod Space Optimization. Helldivers come out of the Hellpod fully stocked on ammo, grenades, and stims. HSO makes it so that when you touch down and come out of your Hellpod at any time during the mission, you will have full ammo, full grenades, and full stims rather than only having a partial amount. I genuinely feel that if no one on the team has brought in HSO, you're kind of handicapping your own team. It really should be base kit at this point because again, it is widely considered as mandatory at higher levels of play and has been since day one of the game going live. And there you go. If you're looking on my hard answer of what 4 boosters your team should bring into a high level operation, here you go. Hellpod Space Optimization, Sprint Booster, Experimental Infusion, those 3 are hard locked. And then the 4th pick can be dependent on the map size and the mission you're running. Might I recommend Muscle Enhancement or Localization Confusion, or maybe even Vitality Enhancement, depending on what your team is feeling, but again, kinda up to you. Share with a fellow diver near you, leave a comment down below. Thank you very much for watching. Peace!